You are now listening to Protecting Your Nest with board-certified family medicine and obesity medicine specialist Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com. Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. When I think about some of my previous podcast guests, there appears to be a common theme. Finding success through lifestyle changes only occurred for many of them after they experienced a personal struggle or when that struggle occurred in someone they love. Although I am happy they all found a path to healing, I do feel somewhat disheartened that it took a personal struggle for them to find that path. What I want to do is live in a world where those who are given the privilege to heal are trained to help those in need of healing. But our current model is more of a disease management model. That's why I felt compelled to start this podcast and why I will continue to share stories of healing so that those who need to hear them are given the hope they are looking for. Today, I want to introduce you to a guest whose name has become very familiar to me whenever I, think about those in Illinois who serve in government and in leadership. Today's guest is an attorney and certified public accountant, Dorothy Brown. Her name is very familiar because she served as the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County from 2000 through 2020. Brown attended Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where she earned her BA in 1975 and became a CPA 2 years later. In 1981, she earned an MBA from DePaul University here in Chicago and returned to school in the 1990s to earn her law degree from Chicago Kent College of Law in 1996. She's been very active in her professional career, has served as president of the National Women's Political Caucus of Greater Chicago and Lutheran Social Services of Illinois. She's also the founder of an executive director of the Star Scholarship Fund, and she's just done wonderful work in the Chicagoland area. And I really, really, really am excited to welcome her to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. How are you doing today, Dorothy?
I'm fantastic, Doctor. How are you?
I am having a good day, busy. We're both busy, but we're going to get it in because we are here to serve and to help those who are in need of that help. So let's start a little bit by an interesting fact of how we met. We were at a local fair, and I was asked to come there by one of my clinician colleagues, and you taught me something really handy on my iPhone I thought was really cute. In fact, you won't believe this, but what you taught me, I taught a patient today when I was doing a virtual visit. She was trying to figure out how is she going to get this document into the right place. So talk a little bit about how we met and what happened in that moment.
So, Doctor, so we were at the health fair, and Dr. Hampton was trying to take a picture of something so that he could have it handy. And I just let him know. I said, well, Doc, do you know? I said, you have an iPhone. I said, do you know that you can scan documents on your iPhone? And so I walked him through that process. You go into your notes and you go down to the bottom and you see a camera. And when you click that camera image, it actually gives you the option to scan a document. It gives you several options. I don't even think you can take a picture with that camera. It gives you all of those other options because you take a picture with your regular camera, right? So
that's right.
So you act as if you're going to start a document. Okay, that's what you do. And you hit it and it says choose a photo. You can scan a document. You can take a photo or a video, or you can scan text. So those are your choices. Not take so and so I taught that to the doctor, and then he was able to scan the document. And what's good about that, Doc, is that you don't even have to position it that well, and you don't have to click it. It just scans. And someone taught me that it's good to send things forward. Play it forward.
That's right.
Someone taught me that maybe 2 weeks earlier. I was so excited about it. And so I teach everyone that
that's right.
that I meet that would that's trying to take a picture to preserve something.
Yeah, it's just ironic that I talked to you today, and a few hours ago, I actually shared it for the first time with a patient who was wanting to know how to scan her, return to work letter. I mean, who knew, right? So she was given that information. So I appreciate it. So I got to know you a little bit during that initial meeting, which was really cool. But a lot of people they see your title, they see the work you've done, but they don't know who you are. So if you were to describe yourself as a person, what would you say?
I would say that I am a person that's very committed to my relatives, to my friends. You can trust me. You can trust my word. They have this saying, your word is your bond. My word is really my bond. And it bothers me deeply if I cannot keep it. And of course, I expect that from others, but that doesn't always happen, of course. And um, and so I'm honest to a fault.
Right.
I am honest to
Mm.
a fault. And what that means is even if it's going to hurt me, I'm going to be honest about it. I've had people to even tell me, now this I need you to just not don't tell
Don't be so honest, right?
I exactly. But I'm a Christian, and I just really believe that when the Bible says all liars will go to hell, I believe that. And
Mm.
I believe that there should be a difference in the way you handle yourself. And so I'm honest to a fault. And I love unconditionally. I love undying love, and I don't mind telling people that I love them, and so the Lord blessed me to meet someone that didn't have a problem with that. Because most of the time when you meet men, if you tell them you love them, they start looking the other way, right? And
Mm.
so I just decided I was not going to change, and I needed to be honest and be able to be free to say, I love you. If in fact, as a matter of fact, he said I love you before I did, so that worked
Mm.
out really well.
All right. That'll work. Well, I'm glad
That
he
doesn't
got it
normally
in.
happen, right?
That's right. Well, that's excellent. And when you think about family, I actually met my wife in Louisiana at Xavier. Very proud of being a graduate of that school. And I know you have roots in Louisiana clearly from your intro. So when you think about when you were a younger person, a little girl, what's your earliest memory from those days back in Louisiana?
That's interesting that you would say that. The first thing that I remember is when my sister, who was 1 year older than me, she was on her way to kindergarten. We walked to kindergarten when we were 5. I just think about here, you can't do that, and it had to be at least almost a mile away from our house, right?
Hmm.
But you went through neighborhoods. So my sister was told to know what the first letter of her name was the next day at school. So my mother had been telling her J, I guess, all night. I don't remember her telling her J. Her name is Juanita. I didn't know she had been telling her J, but what I do remember is we were at home, and all of a sudden the back door opened, and my sister had been gone for almost an hour to kindergarten. At least I thought it was an hour, and I didn't know perspective of an hour. She came in the back door and she said, Mama, what is my last name? What does my name start with? What does my first name start with? My mother yelled at her. She said, J girl, get to school. That was the first thing I remember. I was like, oh, I'm going to remember that one.
That's right.
That's the first thing I remember coming to myself. So, I was like, okay. And it was so funny. The
That
second
is
one other thing I
wow.
remember is Easter speeches. I used to. I'm Kojic, but I went to. We would do our Easter speeches at with the play in the Easter program with the Baptist church in our hometown, because my church was a little farther away. Well, I went to do my Easter speech. Went to Easter speech practice, right? And I don't know if you remember those days, Doc, as a kid. I don't know if you guys did that, but anyway, um, marched up on the stage with my age group, and the all the adults fell out laughing. And I said, "What are they laughing about? With our group, what are they laughing about?" I had cowboy boots on, but I had them on the wrong. And so you know what cowboy boots do
Oh
when you
my
have them on
God.
the wrong feet?
Yes, yes, the
They do.
angles. That's right.
I mean, they were laughing at me.
That is funny. Wow.
Yeah, so I said, "That wasn't right. They shouldn't have laughed at me like that."
That's right. They ought to be ashamed themselves. And it is true that any even though that's funny, I have to admit, but all traumas will be imprinted in your brain or things that elicit emotion. So it makes sense that you remember the things you did. So that's I just wanted to go back a little bit as we get to know you a little bit. And I definitely want to get to know you in your role because Circuit Court of Cook County, my understanding is it was the largest circuit court in the country. So talk a little bit about what the heck is that role and just a little bit about how you spent a typical day in that role.
Well, basically, the clerk of the circuit court is the official record keeper of the court system. Cook County is a consolidated court system, which means that all of the various types of law goes under that one umbrella, under a one chief judge, one clerk of the court, whereas in other states, or like for instance in New York, there's a superior court for domestic relations, there's a superior court for criminal. So they all have their own chief judges and clerk of the courts. We were consolidated. We are consolidated. So everything went under that one umbrella. So we were the second largest, really, consolidated court system in the country.
Gotcha.
And I was responsible for the electronic and the paper record, and even including juvenile court. Had started out with 2,300 employees under my auspices, and very difficult. I would say that it's probably the hardest job in the country, being the clerk of the court for Cook County, because you're working all day long. As a matter of fact, I would say I worked almost 24/7. It's a 24/7 operation because people have to be able to bail themselves out. So it's a 24/7 operation. I would work up until 12, 1 o'clock at night and probably backed up at, 5 or 6, just looking at texts, Doc, editing memorandums on my iPad or even editing them on my iPhone. So I downloaded all the different Microsofts on all of my devices so that so I could handle those kind of things throughout the day, wherever I was. When I didn't drive myself, I had drivers. I had to have drivers because I was editing, answering emails, sending out texts all day, all night, because there was always something that needed to be done. That was one of the reasons why I decided to retire, for my health sake.
Yeah, really.
Because when you're that busy, and that's one of the things that I learned, that stress is not just because you are upset with someone. People think, oh, I'll just stay calm. No, I used to stay calm all the time. Stress comes from being too busy. You can just simply be too busy, and you're putting that extra strain on your body. That was a very stressful job on my body as a whole. And but so just a typical day. Then once I got to the office, meetings back to back to back. And then you're doing that meeting. Those meetings would be with customers, with attorneys, with my executive staff, or a union employee that had an issue. Meetings back to back. And then what happens in the evening for an elected official? You have to go to a reception.
That's right.
You have to go to, you're the guest speaker, the keynote speaker at an event. You're helping to, something, it's a ribbon cutting, just various things.
Nonstop.
It's just nonstop.
Well, I'm glad
you do it over again.
I'm glad you went there because my next question is health related. And most people who listen to this podcast are looking for health related advice or thoughts. So clearly, and most of those people are busy in a different way, not that busy, I would hope, but they're in school, they're working and things like that. So at what point in your journey did you realize I need to start prioritizing my health, and what did you do?
Well, basically, when you're in your, teens, you pay no attention to your health, right? Because everything's going great. In your 20s, same thing. You barely even go to a general practitioner annually. Most of the time you don't. Your parents would have taken you up to 18, and after that, you're you're saying, why did I have to do that? Why do I have to do that if I do not feel bad, right? And then in your 30s, usually same situation. You're not going to the doctor regularly and not realizing that you need to do that because they're doing annual blood tests. They can diagnose things that are in your system or show you some things that you're probably causing damage to. Plus, you're not eating decently. So all of those crazy habits that you have will sooner or later come back to haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can learn to not do that if you just do regular checkups. But anyway, so it came to focus with me when I was 38 years old. And my gynecologist says to me, did I ever tell you that you have fibroids? Now, she had been my gynecologist, because one thing women will do, we may not go to general practitioner, but we will go to gynecologists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially because, once you get pregnant. So she had delivered my daughter, at 27 or 28 years old. She delivered my daughter. I went to her annually for pap smears, etc. And she waited till I was 38 years old. Fibroids do not come overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think she kind of scheduled her surgeries because fibroids are not cancerous. So you can just kind of schedule your surgeries that you're going to have, that you can monitor it, and you can say, what, I'll do these, now I can tell her. She tells me at one of my appointments, oh, did I ever tell you that you have fibroids? And I said, no, you never told me that, doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, and so I was very annoyed by having anything foreign in my body. It's just, it really frightened me. So I did not want it to stay in. So I decided to get a second and third opinion about it because I was saying, wow, I wasn't feeling bad. I realized that I was having very strong, heavy menstruals, but I'm just, you don't really know. So I did not let her do the surgery. I was just that upset with her. I went to someone else and did wind up having the surgery. But so that was the first thing that let me know, wow, these bodies are we're models. We're mere models, and we have to take care of these bodies. So I had that surgery. That was the first time. And so then I started paying more attention to blood pressure and that sort of thing in my 40s. And then once I became clerk of the court, that's when, all that stress that was going on. And at 53, when I started menopause or started the process, that's when everything happened. And I found out, and I know we're going to talk about the book later, I found out that women are so protected because of our estrogen. And the reason why men have heart attacks early is because they don't have that extra protection of the estrogen layer. Testosterone does not protect you the way estrogen does. We're blessed to have this estrogen that protects us. But once that estrogen layer is off, anything that you have done, bad eating habits, high blood pressure, all that stuff will come crashing, or I won't say will, can come crashing down on you. And that's what happened to me. All of a sudden, I have, not controlling my blood pressure, and it was really bad. And so that's when I started to do this research to find out, what was going on with me, and the rest is history.
I think we can dive into the book you mentioned with Diana. If you could just tell us what that book is and how did that book change your life?
Yes. So, doctor, as I said, went into menopause. I was having all of these issues, and I was trying to, first of all, people always said that women in menopause, have attitudes, have these bad attitudes, and I was determined not to have that happen to me. I just think it's a myth. I think people use it as an excuse to be mean.
Right.
And they do. That's number one.
Funny. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, they do. So yes,
That's
yes,
funny.
yes. They use it as an excuse. So, and then I didn't want to have hot flashes, but I had started to kind of have them. So I was researching that also. And I had found some things at Whole Foods that were kind of working for me. it's still there. It's 24-hour menopause relief, and anyone that's listening can get that. It's a pink pill in a day and a purple pill at night, and it actually helps you to rest better because it's natural and has chamomile for the evening. But anyway, I was still continuing to do research because I wanted something a little bit more permanent. So I went on to a website called Woman to Woman. Okay, it's a womantowoman.com. And you take a survey and so to determine exactly where you stand in your cycle. Are you pre-menopausal, in menopause, and your post? So it lets you know. And once they determine that, then they recommend certain supplements for you. So I think I was in it. I think I wasn't pre, I wasn't post, I was in full blown. And they recommended certain supplements. And when I received the supplement in the box, inside that box was a free book called The Schwarzbein Principle, Schwarzbein, The Schwarzbein Principle by Dr. Diane Schwarzbein out of California. And so I just started reading this book because it has on the cover, it talks about aging, metabolic diseases, etc. And as a matter of fact, it really didn't cover menopause that much. It covered everything else,
right,
which was so helpful to me. Cholesterol, type 2 diabetes. And I was very interested in type 2 diabetes because my mother got type 2 diabetes at age 62. She wound up having kidney disease and had to be dialyzed. And she only lived about, at that time, people were not living a long time being dialyzed. Okay. She lived the 7 years that they say dialysis patients live, but they live a lot longer now. And I felt that if my mother got diabetes at 62, then that means that something in her lifestyle had to make that happen. It was not something there. So anyway, so I read Dr. Schwarzbein book in its entirety, and it kept coming back to a central theme. And it has all of these different things, including cancer, had to do with the way you eat on a day-to-day basis. And within that book, it has a 28-day healing program. And it tells you exactly what to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 snacks. She actually wants you to eat 5 times a day to keep your metabolism moving. And I realized at the end of that 28 days that I had not had dessert. I had watermelon and things like that, but not just straight out sugar type desserts. But Dr. Schwarzbein, her main theme was make sure that you're eating the 4 food groups with every meal. You may not be able to eat what I'm saying you should eat on a day-to-day basis. And you're going to go out to restaurants and they may not have on the menu what you need. But you do those 4 food groups, the fat, but not just any fat. It has to be a good fat. And she explains those good fats to you. Carb, and so carbs at a certain level, a reasonable level. Protein, which is the meat. And as a matter of fact, on her diet, on her 28-day program, she actually let you eat a little pork and she let you eat a little beef. Now, I don't eat pork or beef. I've stopped doing that in 92. On my own because of trying to make sure I didn't get diabetes. When my mother first got it. So protein, and she talks about how much protein you should have, and then non-starchy vegetables. And non-starchy vegetables actually have a little carb in it, so you don't have to have as much carb. So, and she explains the best non-starchy vegetables that you should eat. She explains the fruit that are just like sugar.
You better know it.
The grapes,
right,
and things like that. She tells you the 2 best vegetables. I'm sorry, the best vegetable and the best fruit, blueberries. That is the best fruit that you can eat. And I believe she said, I want to say broccoli for the non-starchy vegetable is the best one. Yeah, those 2 things in their particular group are the best things. And then she talks about the type of fat that is the best fat, that you should use. I think that includes olive oil and maybe corn oil,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And she did not necessarily recommend that you don't do beef and pork. She did not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that
Yeah,
whatever you do is at a reasonable level. So,
that's fair.
but yes.
Yeah, that's a yeah, she
Mhm.
sounds like she's more balanced. And I think what I tell patients is when you want to be metabolically healthy, you have to listen to your body. And sometimes you don't have to listen, just check your blood sugar. So if you eat a certain fruit or vegetable, then it'll tell you an hour or two later if that's a problem. What I like about broccoli is that it has something called a high satiety score. So it doesn't really make sense to my brain, but it actually fills you up just like asparagus has a pretty high satiety score. And then you have certain meats that have high satiety scores. But so the berries are just what I promote. But it sounds like she's very rounded, holistic, eat real food. I think the key is to eat real food. And although a lot of people who come to this channel are low carb oriented, eating real food is the key. And then you listen to your body, and then you can decide after you experiment which things are gonna be best for you. So when you think about as people walk through this, and I appreciate you sharing that resources. There's so many people out here trying to help people heal. When people struggle, why do you think people are struggling so much to focus on their health?
Well, people struggle to focus on their health because um, you know, most of the time, we don't listen to our bodies, and so we don't really see anything that's wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
So if we the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
And if we don't really see anything wrong with us or feel anything wrong with us until it's too late, of course, then we're not going to really do that much, or we're not going to really focus on it that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not sexy.
Right.
It's not sexy. It's not sexy to focus on health, unless, like you said something earlier, Doctor, about people start focusing because of a tragedy, because some kind of health crisis. And that's when we focus. But if we can focus more on the preventative,
Mm-hmm.
when my mother came down with
Mm.
diabetes, and I think it was in 91, well, it must have been a little earlier than that because she died in 96. And I thought she lived, well, no, you know what? She lived from 62 to 67. So really, it was about that amount, maybe 91. When she came down with diabetes, type 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I was informed of that, right away, I started saying, okay, how can I not get this?
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I started thinking preventatively, whereas my other siblings started thinking, oh, this is in our family and this is what we're going to get. So they did not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that right now, 7 out of 8 of us, I'm the one, actually has diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
7 out of 8 of my siblings, because nobody else felt or took the time or felt that we could actually prevent it. And even my nieces, some of my sisters, I have a daughter, and some of my sisters have nieces, and I was talking to them about the fact that I do not have type 2 diabetes and why and what I did to keep from getting it. And they said, "Oh my goodness, we just thought that it was inevitable that we would get it." So nobody was paying attention to the way they were eating
That's
at
right.
all. I said,
Yeah.
no, it's not inevitable
No, it's not.
that you have to get it.
Not at all. And one website that I recommend, obviously I teach this stuff myself, but Beat Diabetes, Dennis Palak, he was a previous guest. Type 2 diabetes is completely reversible. And that's why we are carb focused. So so what I tell people is the poison is excessive carbs, and the antidote are medicines. Let's just get rid of the poison so we won't need the medicine. So clearly, so I think for anybody watching, if you want to reverse type 2 diabetes, you focus on carbs. Some people it needs to be down to 75 a day, some people it's 50, some people it's 20. I don't care what that number is. You do what's best for you, and your meter will tell you. And if so, use that as your judge to figure out what you should be eating or what you shouldn't be eating. When you change habits, Dorothy, it's very hard. People struggle with that. What would you say to someone who is wanting to change, but man, moving towards change is so hard. Trying to change habits is so hard. What advice would you give?
Okay, so um, I did this one thing to stop drinking caffeinated coffee because it was affecting me, and then I did it again to stop drinking pop because
Mhm.
that affects
Mm,
you. So, in order to stop drinking those things, I had learned, and I don't know, it was probably an antidote, that you can break any habit in 21 days, or you can start any habit in 21 days.
you got that
And
right.
so I felt that, well, 21 days, that's not even an entire month. I can do a 21 days. So 2 years in a row, 1 year, I started January 1st. People do these, New Year's resolutions. Well, I started either January 1st or the first of a month. I use so that I'm doing my 21 days. Today is the second. Today is my second day. And so 1 year I said, okay, I'm gonna break the habit of drinking coffee. I started first, I had to just do decaf coffee anyway. So I said, I don't want to do coffee at all. And and then people say, well, what do you drink for breakfast? Water.
Right.
Water. And you find
Exactly.
and you realize that it's very good. Water is very good.
That's
Not
right.
only good for you, it's a great taste. So
Yeah.
anyway, I started day one and I stopped drinking coffee. I stopped saying when I was at a meal, what do you want? Coffee. And it took a lot of stress off of me because when I would go to banquets, people do not want to serve coffee until till dessert. And I would always want to drink my coffee with my meal. So I would be sitting up there half the
Hmm.
banquet waiting for my coffee to come out and not eating my meal. And it took all that stress away because now I don't even have to ask for coffee, right? So so I was one of those that wanted to eat my meal with my coffee. But so I just did not do it for 21 days. And when I got to January 21st and I had not drank any coffee, decaf coffee, I said, well, wait a minute, let me see if I can make it to January 30th.
Hmm.
And I did. And once I made it to January 30th, it was a done deal.
Mm,
I was done with coffee altogether.
that's right.
Haven't had it since then. That's been almost 20 years. And so then the next year I said, okay, I had changed to, and people do this, you change from Pepsi to Coke to Diet Coke, right? You think you're doing
Right.
something because you go to diet. So I said, I'm getting rid of Diet Coke. This
Hmm.
year, I'm getting ready to pop all together. And I did the same 21 days. And I don't say you have to wait till January 1st. Just start on the first of the month and count that as day one. And whatever that habit is, I don't care what the habit is. It doesn't have to be food. If it's a bad habit, count those 21 days and don't do it for that 21 days.
Okay,
And
cool.
even if you have a bad relationship and you want to get rid of it, count that 21 days. I'm not calling
Amen.
him or
Amen.
her for 21 days.
Ooh,
By
you
the time
you
that 21 days come up, it's done.
you hurting somebody, but that's what they need to hear. I
It's
love
over.
that, and that's what I'm talking about. So we're gonna be wrapping up shortly because I'll be doing a webinar with CrossFit literally right after this interview in a few minutes. But I
Mhm.
wanted to wrap up with just two easy questions. The first is, when people are trying to think about their bodies and they want to exercise, but they also don't want to over exercise. They need recovery. As we get older, we have to have recovery. I want you to speak to how important it is to have recovery and the importance of, balancing that with the exercise. And of course, I also want to ask you how you plan to protect your nest in the future. What are you going to focus on in the future? So answer those two questions for us.
So from an exercise standpoint, I say to people, because what they do is they don't exercise for a long time, and then all of a sudden they get a membership and they want to go every day. And they want to
Right.
go to everything. Going to go to CrossFit. You're going to go to Step Sculpt. You're going to go to Aqua Fitness. You're going to go to everything, right? And if you try to do that, you wind up doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You may do it for a week, then you wind up doing nothing. So just balance it. One of the things that really helps me, doctor, is to put exercise into my day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I use whatever. whatever I was doing, I did extra. So if I'm going, as opposed to taking the escalator, walk up the steps. As opposed to taking the elevator, I did this for years. I worked on the 10th floor. As opposed to taking the elevator, I walked up to the 10th floor. And then I also would go sometime up to 26 and come down. I found out that it takes longer. It takes longer. You get more stretch when you're coming down stairs than going upstairs. It's harder for And then I happened to have a guy that had been a police officer, and he had trained police officers. He was one of my security guards, because if I walked up the stairs, my security had to walk up the stairs, right? Or they had to walk down. So he walked down with me, and the next day he was fine. Now, he was older than me, but he was fine. I was suffering, and he explained to me that it's breathing. You have to make sure that as you're walking, that you're taking in the deep breaths and letting it out. Breathe, and if you're breathing, and then after you do that, you have to stretch. And if you stretch right after, you don't have to be sore or anything, just stretch, then you're gonna be fine. So that's the exercise thing. Put it into your day, put it into things that you already do, and then do a little extra every now and then. How am I going to protect my nest, my health? I'm going to continue to, focus on it, eating the right thing. I just do the 4 food groups and I don't punish myself if I mess up. I don't feel bad. I'm a perfectionist most of the time, but if I eat the wrong thing once or twice, then so be it, but I don't do it that often. There's a certain, my car gets about 300 and some miles, right? And when it gets close to empty, I go fill up. That's when I cheat at the gas station.
Love it.
So that's about maybe every 2 weeks I get some kind of cheap food.
That's fair.
Right. So, and I don't beat myself up, for it. So I'm going to protect myself by eating the right thing and exercising as often as I can, stretching every morning.
Yes.
You stretch before you get up.
Yes.
Especially as we get to be seniors. If you stretch, I am 69 years old. Amen. I will be 70 come next September. And I think I look pretty good.
And you're killing it. That's right. You better let them know. I said that when I first met you. I said, who is this nice looking lady over here? That's what I was saying. So it's real.
So, stretch, guys, especially us seniors, we have to stretch. We won't be crippled over.
That's right.
We'll be able to walk straight. We won't be having to do slow motion walking if you just simply keep those muscles, stretch those muscles and keep them active.
Well, you know what? We're going to wrap up with that. I really appreciate you. I'm going to make sure I share any links you would like me to share with the team, with the listeners in the show notes. I just want to thank you for just being here, showing us another way, and just being who you are. So thank you so much for joining me today. Okay?
Oh, Doc, I have to tell them, be good to other people.
Yes.
Be nice.
Yes.
Don't put that stress on you. Be nice to others. If you be nice to others and nice to yourself, then your mental health, we didn't even talk about that, will be the best, and your health would be the best as well.
Man, preaching to the choir. So thank you.
Amen.
And it is what it is. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody who had an opportunity to enjoy this episode learned something today. And I think achieving metabolic health it opens up possibilities to how we can thrive and be successful and live our life purpose. So let's all work towards restoration. Let's all continue to heal and continue to learn these principles. So I thank you for coming to this episode. And until the next episode, continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest. You've been listening to Protecting Your Nest with Dr. Tony Hampton. For more, visit drtonyhampton.com.